Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, Marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour nearly 3 years ago. And we've been having so much fun having stories every Wednesday with different writers that we've just been coming back. And even SIFWA got in on the act. They gave us an SFWA Givers Grant. So I feel like I'm on NPR, being able to say Story Hour is made possible by an SFWA Givers Grant. So welcome back to those of you who are joining us from before, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time as well. As always, we have two wonderful writers reading their stories and reading them for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Karen Heuler and L.S. Johnson. If you can, please consider donating to tonight's featured nonprofits, International Fund for Animal Welfare and the Milo Foundation, because we all like animals here. Karen Heuler is reading for the International Fund for Animal Welfare. IFAW was founded in 1969 with the goal to stop the commercial hunt for white seals on the east coast of Canada. After that success, IFAW continued to help protect animals from poaching, habitat encroachment, and other threats. They were instrumental in an ivory ban, which is pretty cool. Current programs include landscape conservation, wolf monitoring, raptor rescue, marine mammal rescue, and an elephant nursery. You can learn more at ifaw.org. L.S. Johnson is reading for animals a little closer to the home. L.S. Johnson is reading for the Milo Foundation. The mission of the Milo Foundation is to rescue adoptable dogs and cats from high-kill shelters and adopt them to loving homes best suited to provide lifetime care. The Milo Foundation rehabilitates dogs and cats, which is kind of unusual, offers sanctuary to those who are not adoptable, and educates the public about responsible pet guardianship, including spay and neuter. You can learn more at milofoundation.org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. You are very lovely, and we like seeing you react to our powerful stories. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You are also welcome to chime in on the text chat. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you very much. We are not monitoring that quite as closely, so please do not get impatient with us. Now, all that said, we are ready for our first reader of the night. Karen Heuler. Karen Heuler's stories have appeared in over 120 literary and speculative magazines and anthologies. Now, that's over 120 different literary and speculative magazines and anthologies. That's not just like 120 stories posted on somebody's blog. That's that. From Asimov's to Conjunction to FNSF, as well as a number of best of anthologies. Her last novel, The Splendid City, came out from Angry Robot Books last June, and her newest short story collection, A Slice of the Dark, was published in November from Fairwood Press. She has received an O. Henry Award, been shortlisted for a Pushcart Prize, for the Iowa Short Fiction Award, the Bellwether Award, and the Shirley Jackson Award for Short Fiction. Her stories and books often feature women facing strange circumstances on this world and others. Karen, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And the story I'll be reading is from this collection, A Slice of the Dark from Fairwood.
What cover art. That's so
Isn't it wonderful?
spooky.
Yeah, it is terrific. Whoops. Left and right and up and down. There we go.
Oh, so spooky.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fantastic cover. And I've had a lovely time with this particular press. I'll be reading a story called Do Not Open. The package on her front porch looked innocent enough. It had a post office box as a return address, and her name was printed very neatly. Handwriting, not computerized. That was nice. It was personal. She felt a little surge of anticipation. It could be anything. It was covered in brown paper, easily removed, and then a cardboard box marked "Do Not Open," with the sides taped shut. Her hand stopped there, surprised. Who would send her something and demand she not open it? Her immediate impulse was to open it, but she paused. Opening it would be the first reaction. People didn't like being told what to do, especially by strangers. That was a trick. She was sure of it. Once opened, it could never not be open, but for all the time she left it unopened, it still held both potentials. She weighed it in her hand, enjoying the challenge it offered. It was light. Nothing seemed to shake inside it. She imagined someone looking from across the street or down the block, watching to see what she'd do. Someone who wanted to surprise her or trick her. She smiled to herself. She put the box on the bottom of the closet. Her husband, Lou, rarely looked there, which was good because he was not known for self-restraint. He might open it or not, but it wouldn't require an internal debate. Just knowing about the box cheered her up. She was a puzzle solver. She had supreme confidence that she would figure out what was the best strategy with the box. If she'd opened it, the game would be over by now. Waiting held more potential. She and Lou lived in a cul-de-sac in a modernizing section of New Jersey. The front yards were small and well kept, and the backyards were fairly deep, with clusters of bushes and ornamental trees. They sloped down slightly. She ran into her neighbor, Deb Carlson, about a week later in the supermarket. Deb looked a little haggard, to be honest, a little bedraggled. Lauren was fine with that. She didn't like perfect people, and she wasn't perfect herself. But Deb looked more strained than usual, and she felt sympathetic. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Has something happened?" "You haven't heard," Deb said anxiously, "about the Wadies?" "I never think of the Wadies, to be honest. They're always so smug about their children, and their children aren't that impressive, I think, anyway. Has something happened to them?" "No one has seen them in a week," Deb whispered, "and their garden is beautiful." Lauren thought about this for a moment, trying to work out all the connections. Deb could wander in her thinking. She tried to pick out the important details. "All of a sudden?" she asked. "The garden?" "Overnight," Deb said, "like someone drove up and delivered it." "Well, maybe," Lauren murmured, still thinking. She hadn't noticed it herself, though it was true that the Wadies were farther down the cul-de-sac on her side, while she was at the start. Still, she should have noticed, but she'd been thinking about the package. "No one could have delivered it," Deb said, forced to be direct. "No?" "Very tall trees, endless bushes and vines. Doesn't even look indigenous." "Ah," Lauren said. "A mystery then. Did Bryce hear anything? Delivered in the night?" Bryce was across from the Wadies, always criticizing everything, a nosy Parker, bound to come up with a crack-brained theory. Said he was surprised as anyone. He'd been up with the birds, too. Said he heard more birds. You know how he is. Not the usual birds either, not pigeons and robins and sparrows. "Ah," Lauren said. "Well, mysteries get solved eventually. We'll think we were dumb for not figuring it out." They nodded politely at each other, and Lauren went back home, immediately checking the package on the floor in the closet. Outside in the backyard, her husband Lou was mowing the lawn, which was weedy and patchy and unfailingly disappointing. She moved the package to the top shelf in the closet. Lou loved to mow, but he'd be back in soon, and she didn't want him stumbling on the box, however accidentally. It was a day or two before Grace, 2 houses down, tapped on her back door and came in. "I've been having a really bad time with Kevin," she said apologetically as Lauren made coffee. "He thinks he's blind." Sorry. Lauren stopped to consider the statement, then turned to Grace. "Thinks he's blind?" "It started a few days ago. I was at the store, and when I came home, he was sitting in the living room, just sitting and looking straight ahead. It was just after the mail came because he'd opened a package and there was brown paper on the floor. I remember that moment so distinctly, him sitting there in the middle of the mail. "Are you there?" he asked. And I said, "Where else would I be?" And he said, just like that, "I can't see you, Grace." All of a sudden, I can't see anything. So I called 911 thinking it was a stroke or something. And while we were waiting, a truck came to deliver a package to the Wadies. And he looked out the window and said, "That truck looks familiar." And I asked, "Can you see that then?" And he looked back at me, or rather through me, and said, "I did. For a moment. Now it's gone again." Made my heart stop. Also made me annoyed, which was terrible. I thought he was playing some game, or he was, being psychological. "Wow," Lauren said. "Quite a story, Grace." Grace was usually reliable, but of course, like anyone, she could get stuck on how something affected her rather than on why it happened. "What's wrong with him?" "Nothing," Grace said in a cracked voice. "He just can't see. Doctor said his eyes are fine, they react fine. There's no brain tumor. He can go to a lot of specialists if he wants, but nothing shows up. And the weird thing is," and here she paused and her eyes got distant, "if he forgets he can't see, then he can see. And he'll see for a little while until all of a sudden he remembers he can't. He's trying very consciously now to train himself not to think about seeing, but you can imagine that's impossible. He has to train himself not to think." Grace rolled her eyes. "How can he? How can anyone?" Lauren simply didn't know. But she had noticed, of course, that bit about the package and the brown paper. Grace had not seen the "do not open" on the box, or maybe it was some biodegradable ink that vanished once the box was opened. And the Wadies had disappeared the same day. Lou was still mowing. He liked to do it. It got him into a mellow mood. She went to the closet and took the box out and shook it tentatively, then put it back on the shelf above the clothes rack and put the Christmas lights box on top of it. Since surprising things were happening in the neighborhood, she decided she should walk around and just take a look. The cul-de-sac consisted of 11 houses, 3 around the circular end of the street and 4 houses running on opposite sides of the street. She walked down her side and went to see what things looked like at the Wadies. Because they rode into the curve, their house had a large front yard which continued down its right side into a backyard. On the left was a driveway and a 2-car garage. She could hear hoots and squeals as she got closer, and once she passed Deb's house, she began to see the jungle, dense with wide-based trees and vines. She could, she thought, feel a rise in the temperature and humidity. Right at the corner of the property, there was a path in. It was very distinct. It was very deliberate. You didn't need a sign saying, "Enter here." She hesitated when she reached it, but a wash of sense made her stand there uncertainly. While she hesitated, a girl came out, her neighbor Cindy's daughter, Allison. The girl stopped dead in her tracks when she saw Lauren. "Quite a thing," Lauren said, desperate to get some conversation going. The girl had come out of that new garden. What had she seen? It was so thick that Lauren had not seen anyone in it. What did it look like from inside? "Are you going in?" the girl asked. "Should I?" Lauren countered, surprised. They looked at each other for a bit. Like all teenagers, of course, she viewed Lauren as a foreign creature and one outside her conversational sphere. Lauren sighed and then smiled brightly. "Are the Wadies in there?" "Sure. Farther back, past the waterfall." "There's a waterfall?" Lauren was astonished. "Not right away. Walk for about 10 minutes and you'll hear it. And then there it is. Go past it and then the village and then the town. And that's where the Wadies are. They have a town." "They have a town?" Really, it was impossible to understand what she was talking about. "Well, yes, they're king and queen, so yes, they have a castle and a town right at the foot of it. I didn't actually get into the castle, but that's where they are. A few days ago, you could get to see them because they hadn't built the castle yet. But now it's pretty complicated. Footmen, knights. Oh, they opened a package, Ellison said conversationally. Perhaps she was trying to judge how to feel about it all because she was looking at Lauren intently. Did you get a package? With that, inexplicably, Lauren turned and ran, running away from a 13-year-old girl. She was ashamed of herself. She went straight across the street, nodding to Phil and Martha, who were dancing on their front porch as if they weren't in their 80s. Dancing beautifully, she noted. The house next to theirs looked terrible, all singed and drooping. Had there been a fire? She didn't recall one, but she could smell it in the air. She didn't like all this change, all this destruction. She liked little bits of change, generously seasoned with the old. The burnt house, the jungle garden, even the geriatric dancing all struck her with dismay. Were the ones with the happy gifts the ones who hadn't opened their boxes? Or was there a totally arbitrary assignment of results when you opened a box? She stood still for a moment, considering it. She desperately wanted to know. She turned back and went past the burned house to the dancing couple. Phil, she called out as cheerily as she could. Martha, so lovely to see you two dancing. You look so good. They both looked over their shoulders at her and winked and grinned and then gloriously danced down the steps into the back of the house and away. She could no longer see them. She had never heard their music. Bryce, the neat freak, was nowhere to be seen either. Perhaps everyone was inside, hiding from the happenings on the street. But there were other houses with normal families, she assured herself, and people who might be at work or shopping. There was a reason for everything she was seeing. She went back home and heard Lou in the back mowing again, his happiest part of the day, as he told her more than once. He said he would like to die riding his mower. The sense of peace and organization filled him with happiness. That was not how Lauren experienced it. The thing was loud and smelly, but there was little she could say about it because his love was obvious and unbreachable. She began to search the refrigerator to find out what to make for dinner, and she opened the back door and called out, Lou, what would you like for dinner? Is fish all right? But he was too far away. And besides, how could she compete with the sound of the mower right now behind the shrubs that Lou had planted years ago to draw in the birds? Once upon a time, the whole neighborhood had made an effort to plant things for the birds and bees. It was an Earth Day event, and someone had taken on the task of researching bushes and perennials. Bryce, no doubt. And where was Bryce? He was always outside in good weather, yet she hadn't seen him. She took a walk around the cul-de-sac again the next day, and it was curiously silent, though looking as orderly as the last time, jungle and burnt house included. She saw Allison just ahead of her slip into the entrance to the jungle that was the Wadey's house, and she called out but was not heard. When she got to Bryce's house, she knocked on the door, but there was no answer. She pushed the bell and heard it, but there was nothing. She went around to the back with his elegant shaded patio and his water feature, and she saw a mug of coffee steaming gently, but no Bryce. And where was his annoying little dog? She heard music from the old folks' house and went to investigate, but when she got there, no one was dancing. The music was faint, but it was obvious, and she walked inside the house, calling for them, only to find the radio on. She left it on. She was beginning to feel uneasy. She went home and got in her car and drove to the store, and there were people there, people everywhere, jabbering as usual, distracted or competent, chatting away, checking their emails, texting while walking. She bought some vegetables and said hello to the checkout girl, who said hello back, and she felt relieved at that. Her cul-de-sac had begun to worry her with its emptiness, as if there was a need to evade her or exclude her. But the rest of the world was normal, and no doubt it was once again one of her annoying episodes, as Lou sometimes said, where she couldn't let things go and kept insisting on her own version of events, when logically, if she would only just look around, none of it was accurate. He could be like that. A nice enough man, but occasionally high-handed, and tending to point out that she could be annoying. as if he never was. She came home and took out the groceries and called to Lou, who was not yet done with the mowing, and went in search of Cindy, who, come to think of it, hadn't been in touch with her. She wondered how her husband was. Had his sight come back? Was he in a half world of seeing and not seeing still? Yoo-hoo, she cried at their back door, knocking at the window, peeking inside, only to see empty chairs and tables, the place as still as could be, and a book by one chair and a TV remote by another, but no trace of her neighbors. Cindy's car was gone, and in looking down the street, she could see that all the cars were gone. And when she went to the Wadey's garden, because it seemed that she would often come across Allison, either going in or coming out, and at least she could ask someone about what was happening all around her, she looked at the path that clearly defined where one should enter the jungle, but there was a door there, and it had a lock. She stared at it for a long time, dumbfounded. She touched it and pushed it and pulled it, and it was solid and sturdy, and there was no way through it or around it. The growth was so extravagant that there were solid trunks shoulder to shoulder all around the jungle. She walked all the way around to the back and came out around the other side of the house and then ended up in their driveway, and there simply was no way to enter the garden. Her palms were sweaty. This was difficult to figure out, but she had been avoiding the obvious thought all day. The boxes everyone had received, it had something to do with that. Once the boxes had arrived, the neighborhood had adjusted day by day, presumably as one person after another opened the box and found either good or bad fortune. She had been careful not to open hers, but perhaps it was worse if one didn't open it. Perhaps everything would go back to normal if she did open it. She heard a voice from inside the jungle. Was it Allison? It sounded like Deb, actually. She missed her. She went to Deb's house just to see if she was there, if she had misheard. What would Deb be doing in the jungle when she didn't even like the Wadeys? But Deb wasn't home, and her car wasn't visible. Lauren turned and looked at all the changes in the neighborhood, and it struck her that if even one person opened a box and changed things, then they would all be affected. She was part of their world. They were part of hers. At least they used to be, she thought, part of the same shared world. She could hear nothing now that she thought about it. No birds, no music, no car starting, no kids yelling, no dogs barking, absolutely nothing. It frightened her. She called out loud, "Hello?" just to make sure she could hear and to see if anyone answered. She heard the sound, and no one answered. She crossed the empty street and hurried home. She got to her house and she thought she could just dimly hear the sound of Lou's mower, and the relief she felt was almost dizziness, almost faintness. She went to the back door and opened it, looking out to the yard. Sure, she would see Lou riding his mower, but she didn't. The lawn was perfect. The bushes were mulched. Not a leaf had fallen from the trees. It was beautiful to look at, but she was wrong. There was no sound of the mower. She had heard it in her head because she had been hearing it all day, every day for weeks now. "Lou?" she called out, and then "Lou," again and again, and she ran to the row of bushes and past them, and Lou was still not in sight, so she ran inside, her heart matching her gasps, and she went to the closet and reached up to the top shelf and took down the box with the Christmas lights and reached for the box she had received that terrible day so long ago, and the box was gone. She swept her hand back and forth and got a step stool and checked by sight, and then bent down and checked the floor of the closet, everywhere in the closet, as if she could have forgotten where she'd put it, or as if there were so many items in there that one could lose one entirely. But the box was gone. She was beginning to understand. There was only one thing that made any sense. Lou had found the box and opened it, found it, and unleashed this terrible consequence on her. And whatever he'd wished had excluded her. Or had she opened it herself? Had the consequence of her particular box been to exclude all of them? Was that part of the chance of it, that little by little the world would change because of her, but she wouldn't know she had done it? But in fact, anyone who opened any box might have set this thing in motion, set the strangeness rolling. One person's changing world affected all of them after all. Had she done it? Had they? And was there somewhere another box waiting to be opened that might set it all back again, set it all right, if only someone would open it? And what about beyond this street? Was it possible that the boxes would be delivered door by door and street by street, so that boxes would be opened and unsuspecting events would begin to happen everywhere as brown paper was ripped away and the lids were lifted, despite the warning on the top, "Do not open"? Or again, had she done it, set it all in motion? Was she the one who had started it all by not opening the box? And now it was too late to fix it? The enormity of the possibilities overwhelmed her. The box was gone, and with it any chance of changing whatever had begun outside happening around her, and, if she understood it, and maybe she did not, edging away from her, leaving her alone in the cul-de-sac with silence all around. Thank you.
That was freaky. Oh,
I'm glad you liked it.
I did. It was like a Twilight Zone
Yeah, it has
episode.
that.
Only it didn't feel like it was from the 50s.
Yeah.
You know,
But it was a little Twilight Zone-y.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It can be
so
fun.
much. Yes, absolutely. Ooh. So between our two authors, we like to take a breath because every story just needs a minute to settle in. I think especially that one. I'm not settling very quickly. And thank you so much, Karen.
Well, as I said, thank you for letting me read. Thank you.
Oh, it is our pleasure. And our next reader is L.S. Johnson. L.S. Johnson lives in California with a spouse, 2.5 cats, and
we have backyard cats. They come and go. So
I see. And numerous goldfish. She is the author of the Chase and Daniels Quartet of Gothic novellas and over 40 short stories. Her first collection, Vaqui Magia, won the North Street Book Prize and was a finalist for the World Fantasy Award. Her second collection, Rare Birds, was an IPPY medalist, yes, and longlisted for the Stoker Award. Her vampire serial, Prima Materia, is happening now. Find her online at traversingz.com. L.S. Johnson, welcome.
oh, thank you. And thank you to Laura and Daniel for having me. This is great. The story I'll be reading tonight is called Germinant, and it is from Vaqui Magia, which is actually coming out later this year in a fancy deluxe hardcover edition, which you can pre-order now on Kickstarter.
Oh, how wonderful. If you have a link for that you could drop for us, that would be.
Yes, I will drop it at the end. I didn't have it ready. So
No worries.
I'll drop it in the end, and I'll
go see if I can find it too.
Okay.
Sometimes my Googling is not bad.
Yeah, no, it's there, and it's under Vaqui Magia, so it's easy to find. So
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Because Leslie had been told not to, she of course went to the clearing at the first opportunity. It wasn't hard to find, right at the signpost and a ways down the road as her mother had warned her, then along a narrow path worn deep, until just past the point where a young lady of excellent character would start to think the place didn't even exist. The clearing was quiet and filled with drowsy insects. It was ringed with tall pines like columns. She felt a delicious tremor like anything might happen. Save, of course, nothing would, because nothing interesting ever happened. Leslie had mastered life in childhood. Her handwriting was copperplate perfect, her needlework and cooking blue ribbon quality, her complexion clear, her smile charming. All that was left now was for her to live out her life day by day, marching through a progression of offices, wife, mother, grandmother. But oh, to feel for a moment that anything might happen. What had her mother said? She had said, girls have disappeared from that place. They come back different. And Leslie had said, which is it? Do they disappear or do they come back? Her voice laced with triumph at having caught her mother in such a stupid lie, as if she hadn't known full well what her mother meant, what a girl might be up to in a clearing without a chaperone, as if Leslie would ever do such a thing, as if Leslie was that kind of girl. Lately, it seemed as if her mother thought she was some kind of girl, though exactly what kind, Leslie wasn't sure. Since they had moved back to her mother's town, Leslie had received nothing but criticism. She was simply too Leslie, too aware of how good she was, how talented, how pretty. A little humility wouldn't kill you, her mother would say. Because her father couldn't afford the city anymore, Leslie was supposed to be grateful for what they had. Because her mother was economizing, Leslie was supposed to let her dresses become worn and stop asking for the latest catalogs at the store. Because they had lost their savings, Leslie was supposed to stop making eyes at the richest boys in town, to keep modest friends, to not to accept invitations to dances or parties. But look, here was Leslie in the clearing, unsupervised. Anything might happen. If her mother had really wanted her to stay away, all she had to do was tell the truth. A girl shouldn't go to the clearing because the clearing was boring. Leslie stomped around, kicking at the crisp pine needles that lined the bowl of the hollow. She found a thick, knobby stick and shoved it into the ground, stabbing it over and over with a vicious energy she couldn't explain. She muttered to herself. She gnashed her teeth and whacked the stick against the pine trunks, slashing at the underbrush. This town, counting out pennies just to get a new hat. Her mother's perpetually grim expression. She had made Leslie look at the accounts, holding the numbers before her face until Leslie had agreed, yes, we're damn poor, and gotten a slap for her language. This town. Only 1 week at school and already the slack-jawed farm girls were whispering about her. The loutish boys were talking about what city girls do. They had laughed at her when she admitted to knowing nothing about crops or animals. They dropped insects in her collar and put dead mice in her desk. This damn town. She mouthed the damn, feeling the delicious curve of the word, the decisive crush of her lips over the M. At last, she let go of the stick. Everywhere she saw the marks of her frustration, clods of dirt tossed about, the stick's deep gouges in the soil, the bent and broken branches of the younger pine trees. In short, the same boring clearing as before. Though the very thought naturally repulsed her, Leslie could see how a girl might invite a boy here, just out of sheer boredom, just to do something exciting for once. Things are different here, her mother had said. There are things that you've never heard or read about, things you won't understand. Always ask your school friends before going anywhere, and always do what they tell you to do. Leslie sat down, splaying her legs that she never would in public, letting her posture slump until the tight waist of her dress constricted her. Oh yes, there were things here she didn't understand, like hog butchering parties, and why there was hay everywhere, making her eyes and nose run. In the city, she had gone to exhibitions and concerts. She had been addressed by fine young gentlemen. This year was supposed to have been her debut. The ground gave way beneath her, so suddenly she didn't even have time to scream. dirt and darkness. She flailed, she scrabbled in every direction and felt only dry, sandy soil, soil sliding around her, soil pressing in on her. And weight now, a terrible weight. Her heart was pounding so it felt about to burst. Tears pushed out from her clenched eyelids. She clawed and clawed. There was no more air. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't. Everything flashed white in her mind, and her body contracted one last time. And with a great tremor, she was propelled up and out into the world once more, landing face first among the pine needles. She crawled blindly away from the hole as fast as she could, swallowing great mouthfuls of air. And then she vomited fistfuls of earth coming up from her belly, stinking of bile and rot. Her eyes were caked shut with dirt. Her whole body was shaking. She couldn't stop shaking. She had been sitting. She had just been sitting. At last, her breathing slowed and her senses returned. The air felt chilled and damp. Her skirts were sticking to her legs. She raised her hands to her face to wipe her eyes, only to hit herself with something wet and hard. She blinked, her eyes filling with crumbs of dirt. She blinked and blinked again, wiping with her left hand. What was wrong with her right? And when she finally could see, she found herself staring at her right forearm. Her hand was mangled, the fingers stumpy and twisted, the skin gouged nearly to her elbow, the whole thing glistening with blood that ran fresh and bright. Only then did she start to scream. It was as if a great haze had fallen over the world. Or perhaps it was Leslie who lived in the haze, while the rest of the world continued on bright and crisp, practicing its penmanship and its flirty looks, winning ribbons and moving with steady steps into its future. She forgot heat, forgot cold, forgot how it felt to grip solid objects. Hands had carried her from the clearing and laid her on her bed piled high with eiderdowns, and when she rose again, the world was soft and hazy. The only vivid object was her useless right hand, a mess of jagged scar tissue ending in fine, ripped edges like torn leaves, nubs of white bone jutting out from her stunted fingers, all healed, as if it had happened long ago, as if she had been born this way. Cocooned in the haze, everyone seemed to look through her. She couldn't blame them, for she couldn't even see herself. Mirrors were cloudy. Water seemed to reflect only a dark outline, as if a hand had smudged everything that had been Leslie. She had difficulty uttering her own name. Her letters looked like a child's. Her stitches were lumpy and erratic, her cooking sloppy. All that she had been, embodied in one fine-boned hand, now lost. Her father borrowed money and bought her a custom glove, a lumpish, leathery thing that she threw aside. When her mother slapped her, she could not even feel the blow for the haze. Sometimes she heard a strange noise, like an insect's drone, only to realize the buzzing was coming from her own throat, an unconscious articulation that she lacked the will to investigate. Pity, sympathy, mockery, all flowed over her. Her parents' misguided love, her mother's reclamations, they seemed directed at a host of Leslies just to the right, just where her hand should have been. There, a Leslie had learned from her mistake. That Leslie was going on with her life a better person, raised up by her tragedy, a kinder soul that a kind man would one day clasp to his breast. There, a Leslie had given into despair and plotted to remove herself from the world. There, a Leslie had accepted her injury as a divine punishment. That Leslie was devoting her life to humility and charity, viewing her scars as a testament to her place in the world. There, a Leslie had run away to the city, giving herself over to a bohemian lifestyle. Men sought her out for her injury, for the thrill of being with a woman who had fought off highwaymen or wild animals, or whatever story she decided to tell that night. So many Leslies crowding beside her, jostling for her place in the world. So many Leslies, yet not a one felt real to her. There were only the scars, their patchwork of numbness and tingling when she touched them, the brute reality of absence. Rise above it, the pastor advised her. Accept it, the women told her. It's over, her mother stated, as if saying things made them so. She couldn't feel the ground beneath her feet. She hit herself repeatedly, reaching with that hand-turned stump, until the bruises too became part of the foreign body that she found herself observing from this newfound distance. At some point, people stopped visiting her, inquiring after her. Her father no longer looked at her when he returned home. Her mother moved around her like she was furniture. There was only the blessed haze, lightening at sunrise and dimming at twilight. Each day, her mother put her outside to get the air, like a cat. She would wander through their tiny garden or take small steps up and down the lane, buzzing to herself, her arm tucked like a broken wing. She's making a meal of it, the women said now, shaking their heads. Leslie could hear them. She knew what they meant, but she couldn't speak for the haze. They were only words anyway. They come back different, but no one had come back the way she had. Her mother, one night in a fit of rage when Leslie wouldn't eat again, wouldn't help again, wouldn't do a thing but simply sit, floating in her soft cloud. You always thought you were special, well, now you damn well are. Each day she was put outside and she walked, buzzing, her arm tucked. She was starting to think of herself as us, we, all the Leslies that might have been. We are walking. Our mother is calling us. She started walking further down the lane, past the edges of the garden. She left no footprints, but she couldn't feel the ground, so this didn't surprise her. The world was soft and buzzing and humming, and now she hummed too. She hummed and trilled and whistled. She opened her mouth and let the wind blow in and out. We are the wind. We are insects on the wind. We are a nest teeming with life. We are nest and wind both. At night, when she was back home among the eiderdowns that barely bent under her weight, she turned her forearm one way and another in the lamplight and fancied that the scars were moving, the ragged edges undulating, little puckers in the flesh opening and closing like mouths. What would they eat if she could feed them? She took her pen and teased them with the dried nib, feeling the indentations. She jabbed at the tissue with a needle, pleasantly intrigued when she found she could work the needle deep and there would only be the dark hole in her flesh, not a hint of blood, like the finger holes the farmers made before dropping in the seed. What might grow again if she could find something to bury in the soil flesh beneath? We don't know how we got back here. The clearing is a ways down the road, right at the signpost, and we did not pass the signpost. We went north, not south. We kept the sun to our right, the better to warm our fertile arm. Yet we are back, and we are not surprised. Now we see what we missed, how utterly black and loamy the dirt is, far different than anything for miles. How the needles have combed themselves into even hillocks, the better to mulch what lies beneath, all that lies beneath. The whole of the clearing seethes, it pulses, its sides rise up to cradle Leslie and Leslie and Leslie and Leslie as we fill the space with all ourselves, all the girls who came back different, we who rose and we who sank, we who went back to the city and we who spent long nights tonguing our scars and tasting the life within. We fell here. The center of the world is a pucker exactly the shape and size of us. It is here we crouch, dribbling spittle into the hole and watching the liquid trickle into the precise center. It is here we plant ourselves, pushing our hand down and down until we're buried to the elbow notch. The sweet tickling of roots sliding forth, the swelling and budding of 100 nodes rising up on our skin, bursting free beneath the fabric of our dress and seeking the cracks of seams until green tendrils of life slide forth. Blooming and blossoming, we press our face to dirt and inhale. We are the fledgling returned to our nest. We are the ant who has scented home. We are the seed cone fallen on the most welcoming ground. At last, nourishment. At last, the haze lifts. At last, to debut for the greatest of audiences. Our sighs fill the clearing and set the trees trembling. At last, life. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So sad and so beautiful. Thank you. Feeling a little mesmerized, just still. Your voice, your author voice, and your speaking voice together really just wove a spell with that one.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will totally take the Clive Barker vibe as a compliment too in the chat. Thank you.
And I did manage to pop the Kickstarter link in there, but
Yes.
you know, you've got it funded almost 3 times over already.
Well, I mean,
This is
it's
really
not-
just for people to get in on the action.
It's a pre-order. It's a pre-order. I mean, the print bill for this book is much larger than anything, you know, that the
Well.
Kickstarter will hit. But this is just to help get the printing and make it as good as can be.
That's
So.
amazing. Well, it's wonderful. It
Thank
looks
you.
great. I wish you the best of luck with it. And it looks like we have until March 9th.
Yes, March 9th will be the
Yes.
last day. Yes, and
Yes.
there's a slightest chance I'll have a proof copy when I'm at Emerald City Comic Con next week, but I'm not betting on it, but I'm hoping for it. So
That would be
we'll see.
amazing.
We'll see if the shipping gods will be good to me.
Yeah, everybody go and check out the link and look at the artwork. It's really something.
Mhm.
And the cover art for Karen's latest collection, you haven't
it's
seen it,
gorgeous.
is amazing, just beautiful. Don't have a whole lot of adjectives tonight apparently, but they are sincerely meant. Well, Daniel and I are here every week with 2 different writers. And next week we have Michelle Belanger, who is a watcher favorite, viewer favorite, and the debut of Tanya Ransom for us. But many of you will know Tanya from the Nightlight podcast. I do recommend checking Story Hour 2020 the day of, just in case there are any changes. And it's also a good place to learn about the schedule and the upcoming writers and what you might not want to miss. And if you find yourself looking at that and saying, darn it, I did miss a really amazing one that I didn't want to miss, and it's already gone. It's not gone. It's still on Facebook at the Story Hour. You can go and watch it again as many times as you want, in fact. And we've got 3 years of these now, so you could stay busy for a while. So L.S. Johnson, Karen Heuler, thank you both so much for sharing your gorgeous stories with us tonight. This has really been special.
Thanks again for having me.
It's an incredible pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I hope you'll both come again. And thank you to my co-host, Daniel Marcus, without whom none of us would be here. And again, to SFWA for the Givers Grant that helps us keep the lights on and the video streaming. And thank you to all of you who are watching now, who are watching at some point in the future, because when we've got someone reading stories and someone watching them, we're all in the same story hour. Good night.